Okay, so let's begin. Welcome everyone. This is the end of Vanguard BRO. Pretty crazy. There's Y Swords next week. I know some of you guys were playing, so good luck. But yeah, how was it, everyone? I heard you guys got some tops as well this weekend. Start from Wrapup. We're going from the top left. You know, how'd you go?
So I play in AO and EU, and I got X2 in AO via very tragic circumstances. But fortunately, I managed to get my first stop of this BRO with Laurel in EU, and yeah, very happy, and finally, man, I got the top.
Yeah, how long has it
But
been, man?
most importantly, I managed to win my first run of Swiss after the entire year. So I think that's a
Well, he just lost his internet connection.
He was too excited.
Yeah, he's just so excited he died. Let's go to Derek. How'd you go, Derek?
So Asia, I went X1 all the way up until the last round, and then met my good old buddy Jake Hudson. We see each
Was it
other
Jake
at
Hudson?
BCS Australia a lot. Yeah, Jake Hudson. Yeah. And then he won, which meant that he got into top cut. So I was like, pretty devo about that. So I got 13. And then EU, I had to miss out the first round because of the last round of Asia. And then the second round, my opponent 5-healed me. So yeah, I X2 and died within the first 2 rounds. And then I got kind of mad at myself and then decided, you know what, I'm going to sleep and wake up at 2 a.m. and, get stuff done. And then I went 9-0 in Swiss, ended up winning top 16, top 8, and then misplaying in top 4 and disconnecting like 500 times. And yeah, ended up coming third.
Oh, that was like I didn't realize that was Jake. I saw Jake Hudson. I saw it was like Jake. I'm like Australian. Who's a Jake? But
Jake
yeah,
Hudson, yep.
Crazy. Wrapup, did you want anything to add because you got so excited you disconnected?
Yeah, man. Discords kept crashing since yesterday, but I don't know. I play Laurel, but it was like I would say that Laurel doesn't really suit my playstyle, but I just like bought it in last minute because like the deck is pretty easy to learn and it's pretty straightforward as well. And throughout the entire day, I just like double critting people left and right, and just like all in their two to pass every time. No saltiness from overtrigger actually. My I think like from my 17 games yesterday, it was like really clear from overtriggers. I trigger once, I got triggered like a lot of times, but most of the time I just PG it. So no overtrigger salt this time. Just just crits. So yeah, I'm good.
All right, Kelvin, how'd you go?
Okay, so I played Graffidia Worlds, as some people might have seen on stream a few times. Team Rock.
Yeah,
Team Rock.
And
Rocks forever.
and Rocks forever. It's like yeah. So I played in AO, and I was 6-1, and I think I lost the last round, or like the round 7. I can't remember exactly because I got it 2-2 break on 3 damage, and he got crit all to Vanguard. So that was my mistake. I think I have enough to guard for impossible. But yeah, it's just one of those things that you only regret after you see it back. So fortunately, I finished quick enough to get into EU round 1. So I did play that and got through 7-1 along with Wrapup David up here. And we both got it to top 8, so that was pretty cool. Top 8 game first against Nuno. Really strong player, as we know. The world champion of Standard, actually. And yeah, like won that game on stream with some pretty crazy tactics. I'll say that's thanks to Solemn. The 0 damage gaming, actually best strat ever. But then top 4, I sort of died because I didn't get any persona right after drawing like more than half my deck. But I won top 3, the 3rd place playoff. So 3rd place, pretty happy. Got the PR.
Cool. Kevin, you're like I think the only Iron Man this time, able to top every single format. Actually, what, 4 tops in 3 formats, right? It's pretty good when you think about it. Was it? Yeah. How'd you feel?
Yeah.
How'd you feel? You know, also winning one of them.
I mean, of course, I'm really happy, really grateful for, a bit of fortunate luck and just everyone helping me test last couple months, you know. And yeah, I played Bruce this time. I was the only one who played Bruce. Everyone was on
Surprising.
rocks.
Surprising. Only one
Everyone
Bruce.
was on rocks. Uh, but yeah, I managed to get top 8 in AO, and I was really happy. And to get to top the last of the formats. So
Nice. Mark, how'd you go?
I'm on the Team Rock, but unlike everyone else here, I'm just some scrub who X2 drop in like the first 4 or 5 rounds. Some of them was due to bad luck, some of them was just booking. Some of them, some of them frame plays on.
I'll speak up.
Listen to learn, I guess.
Yeah, because
Oh,
cutting out a
Can
bit.
you hear me? Yeah. Just lessons to learn from my misplays, and hopefully I'll do better next time. But on the plus side, I did end the game on my grade 2 turn with a with an over trigger that my opponent just absolutely couldn't guard. So that was something cool.
Something cool. All right, so
Weird, I thought that never happened.
how about you? You're a rock man.
Yeah, man, I'm a rock man. I love this deck. This is the most fun I've ever had in Overjust.
Yeah,
Seriously, this.
We were thinking, right? We were thinking like, since you like rock so much and you like making sound effects, you know, this would be the perfect deck for you because you can make the sound effects while shooting the rocks, right?
Absolutely. I even in my deck profile put Solemn Tones as the sponsor. Just a little Easter egg.
In fact,
yeah.
during the test games with myself and Kai and Kelvin, we were often imitating Solon making the sound effects where we play our rocks.
I had no idea. So, yeah, I went top 8. I died in EU. Yeah, that's it. I don't know what else to say. You know, I won 1 game because I won 2 games total because of Overtrigger. I lost 1 game because of Overtrigger. I don't know. I really like the deck. I'm just glad that it's a standard top so that people don't think I only am able to compete in premium.
Cool. Toby, how about you, man?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much the only player that went against the grain in a lot of like popular picks, and I actually went with Paramagnet to be a bit of an outlier. My sort of main thing was, well, for one, I'm a bit more remote, and it was a bit hard to get access to like Graffidia in the first place, because it was obviously Graffidia is one of the most foundational solid decks for the mid to late game to early game at all ranges really. But the good thing about Barrow is like it's actually really, really strong against Graffidia and against a lot of other things, where it just has to be sometimes opportune with getting its right soul charges. But I played a build that was very heavy in on the go all in strategy to try and just sort of beat down the opponent. And it worked well for the most part. Like the Graffidia matchup was very easy for me. I pretty much beat all of them I came across, except for the unfortunate times with like triggers not going my way. And yeah, I missed out on AO and EU just because of unfortunate things like over triggers came up in some scenarios where they were either against me or damage checks, so I couldn't win. And then NA, I was feeling pretty tired, lost the first round, decided to not try from there because I didn't want to go for 24 hours and then like have something similar come up later again. So unfortunately, I didn't get a top this weekend.
That's all right. It's good. Okay. And then Tyler, last one. How'd you go?
I played AO and NA. AO, I got the most famous 9th place, and then NA I topped, and then died in my top 16 matchup. And I was playing Laurel.
Nice. All right. So I think that's all. How'd you guys think of decks? Well, like, why did we get? Did you? How do we say this? Do we think Rox is really good? I think Rox is really good.
Yes, Graffidia best deck.
I would say Rox is good deck, but in terms of best deck in the format, I think the common consensus is still, I think Bruce and Laurel are definitely the top 2. Those were our default picks before.
Yeah,
but it's sort of like, do I really want to just like play 3 games of chicken like every single round? And the answer is like, no, we want action. We want to just like start, dropping rocks on people from the early
I think the
game.
consensus is wrong. I think Graffidia has best deck. Or Barrow.
Not totally.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, in my opinion, that like Bruce is probably the most highest ceiling power deck range about how it can perform. Laurel is pretty close too, obviously being the big Vanguard pressure, and I think that's why those two are considered pretty much big powerhouses, right? Because like when they get to what they want to do, it's explosive, right? It's super powerful, very hard to stop.
Yeah. I don't know. Personally, I really don't like Bruce in the current meta. It feels like, set 1 Bruce, sure. Set 2 Bruce, sure. But, like, set 3, it feels like a lot of things have caught up. And, like, Laurel, I think, like, in Japan, we saw lots of people play it, but the conversion was pretty bad. I think, looking at these tournaments, only NA had, like, a huge Laurel conversion, right? So, I feel like it's, like, a very simple deck, but again, it's, like, a kind of a just, like, a one-track deck. While... Personally, I really like Graffidia because it just kind of covers all the bases. It has a bit of everything in every single game, every part of the game. So I think, personally, I think Graffidia is really, really strong. Anyone else have similar ideas or different ideas?
I think
So
one of
my
the factors is
you go first.
that it just so happens that Graffidia is a very good deck against the other big competitors in the format. Like Bruce and Laurel, they're both low, so the fact that we're playing something that's aggro and then try to take out their hand as much as they can before they get to do their big turns, that's a real plus. And we know we're going to play against all of those decks walking into the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea is very similar to Prism in V Premium, where Prism is just consistent against the other big powerhouses like Gabriel and Laurel, where they represent Laurel and Bruce in standard, right? And then Graffidia is just that consistent deck. And I think that's what is good about the deck because, like you said, it covers all bases. It was made to kind of beat Bruce and Laurel, but it contains really well against everything else. So it's just a really consistent pick.
Okay. I think like some other people also thought the same thing as well. Like EU winner was just a straight up pure Graffidia deck. Muno also took Graffidia as well, a more pure Graffidia list too. So it feels like there was quite a few Graffidias floating around, and just some of them did.
Seems more than what we expected before.
Yeah, we thought it would be like this underground thing that no one would know about. Then alas, people started talking and talking. I was really sad. But I also think Barrow is actually really underrated. Like it can pop off on turn 3, and then it destroys Bruce and Laurel, and then it can usually also destroy Graffidia. So I don't know. Like even before going into the event, I considered going Barrow, and I was also really afraid of Barrow. More so than of Bruce and Laurel. Because Bruce and Laurel, I know, okay, these are turn 4 decks. I'm just going to bash their face in and probably win. Like, the win rate against those 2 decks is really solid. And, yeah, Barrow, my win rate sucks ass against it. It's so good.
Actually, while we talk about Barrow, Toby, I've got a quick question. Did you end up playing nulls in your deck?
No, I did not, no.
Ballsy.
I was very much... Yeah, I was very much in the train of just making sure I have consistent soul charge to get as much aggression out as possible. And that worked for the most part. Obviously, there are pretty much the only ways that people were going out of it was for triggers against like defensive and things where they're able to accumulate enough resources to be able to, survive against me. So I wanted to try and, just be aggressive because personally, like other people probably think the same way too. Like the Bruce and the Laurels are like, I feel very unsafe with those decks, especially early, knowing about like people would play a lot of like midfield centric early game aggressive punches that would be consistent late game, whereas you're just trying to hold on for dear life until you hit turn 4, right? And I personally don't like to sort of have that risk factor, especially against like triggers against me too, where my game playing can just go completely out the window. So that's why I wanted to be the aggressor instead of being the aggressee, right? Be the one that's being pushed, being able to push back against like the good mid-range decks that will sustain easily enough to try and like get rid of their resources and try and batter them down. So that's why I sort of picked Barrow in that retrospect, and why I think Barrow performed well in NA. It got first, right?
Yeah, it won the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a lot more of a safe build, but they had a lot more sort of more utility options and things like that. What they wanted to do late game, with less consistent access to still charge, obviously, but the way the deck operates is still, the same central idea and the same goal there. So it's easy to see why I was able to perform in the field against like even some of the Graffidia decks and whatnot.
Okay. I guess Team Laurel. What were your thoughts taking Laurel to the tournament instead? Considering it's considered like a more simple kind of deck. You just more comfortable with it, or Tyler? Do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Actually, I only played Laurel because my Graffidia stuff didn't arrive in the mail in time. So it was either Laurel or Bruce, and then Bruce, like, is just kind of vanilla until the grade 4 or the turn 4 turn, whereas Laurel you can try to draw cards on the turn 3 turn, but like with the president, the trees, or like just using romantic happiness to sing. So that's why I
Yes, the
picked that over.
president.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I also like the fact that when you swing with the Laurel, it's no sentinel, so just flip OT and win. Did that
Okay.
I think a couple times, and did the dirty.
We have anything you want to add? Being a Laura boy.
Yes, Laurel team with Tyler. So I think I have a different take regarding Graffidia and Bruce compared to like most of you guys. So as you know, I didn't really test the format until like a week or so, and I just like playing that casually with Joe. And even then, Joe's just like destroying me with his Bastion over and over again. And I'm like, man, I'm just going to lose the Bastion. And like in all my testing, I test against Graffidia, against Bruce. And I'm like, how are these decks are good? Like even good. I'm like, Bastion is like the scariest one, man. So so I play like throughout the entire day from AO and EU. I play against at least like five Graffidias and I think like 4 Paramagnet. So the entire day was like just full of practice against Graffidia and Bruce. But I think that in normal circumstances, Laurel can't really deal like 6 damage win against Graffidia. And like based on my just like the entire day of playing against them, I feel that the only way Laurel can win is just like by decking them out. And Laurel can do that with their defensive capabilities, but you kind of have to like survive the first few turns onslaught because Meteor just like hits you straight from the first attack with crit, right? And you can't really commit that much boards. So like I was watching a stream in Run for an NA and I like tried to see like how these guys are like playing Graffidia in general because obviously I don't have time to check like other stuff. So basically after that I got the conclusion that okay, they have like more than 10 cuts in hand every game, and that's like really impossible to break through even though like I fully complete my board. So it's just like a game of like resource battle, and then like eventually they will take out. And like the winner of EU also play pure Graffidia, and he lost only one game the entire tournament, and that was like a double loss against me because we went to time. But if we continue like one more turn after that, I would have won because I just need to attack him to win. So yeah, and in total, I beat like all Graffidia in that day with Laurel, and also win against all Paramagnets. My only loss yesterday was against Laurel Miller, which is it's a pretty difficult matchup in my opinion. Like you go first or you go second, sometimes it matters as well. And how many Kaicho or like the grade 2 that can draw to, as Tyler said, uh, you get in your early game matters as well a lot. If you don't get that, then you're definitely in like a losing position. So yeah, that's my take regarding the meta. But pretty much the entire day, I only play against those 4 decks: Bruce, Graffidia, Mirror Match Laurel, Paramagnus, and a few Bastions. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
Cool. And then I guess Kevin, do you want to say anything about Bruce? Being the only Bruce person here.
I mean, I guess like put it very concise. Bruce is just really good. It just Toby already said it. It just has really high top end. Like, it just has insane power level. You just have to get there. And I knew about the Graffidia deck, and the same guy that lent me the Prism deck definitely could have lent me a Graffidia deck. Um, but I don't like 3-lane decks, so I can't play it.
Okay. All right. How about? Do you think standard is good right now? What do we need to improve standard, or is it in a fine place? Anyone want to get cancelled first?
We have to say it.
Say it, Solemn. Say it. I know you want to say something.
I think over triggers should be banned.
How many times did you get screwed by over triggers and win by over triggers? Did you just a rough count, guys? Like over the course of the day. There, zero. We got a 5 and a 3.
Games.
5, 0, 2, 3. Okay, there's a lot of. Is that lost to over trigger or like over triggering, or both?
Wait, no, where it flipped the game.
Oh,
yeah,
where it flipped the
when it
game.
made major difference.
Okay. All right. So there's like a wide variety of what happened, I guess. So
That makes sense, right? Like sometimes it's not gonna do anything, but very often when it's checked at the right time, it just flips the game.
yeah. And I guess like this being an online tournament, it's kind of okay because you just chill at home, right? When you lose 2 games. But I guess when you spend money to go to a hotel, going back to a hotel, it's not as fun as just staying at home and just watching anime, like the new Attack on Titan or something like that, right? So. Yeah.
Overall, standard is pretty good right now. Like I did enjoy that there's multiple builds for multiple decks and that there's like interesting things going on in each matchup. Like Bruce has different options, Barrow has different options, Graffidia suddenly stormed onto the scene. Laurel doesn't have different options, but it's still an extra deck, that adds to the pool. And the fact that we could come in with a deck that barely was known and then do well, that was really cool. I think set 4 also looks really promising, but overall, if you want to take like the luck aspect out of the game or like reduce it, I think going first is too strong, persona riding is too strong, and over triggers are ridiculously way too strong. So
Yeah.
I think the grade 4s in set 4 kind of reduced the persona ride sack a little already,
Yeah.
but then the other issues still need to be addressed, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and following on from that as well is like I still think in that aspect too, set 4 has shown to be pretty cool in terms of like how deck designs and like game plans are going. But again, I think going first is inherently just way too strong at the moment. Like you get to do everything you want to do before your opponent in all instances, right? Whether that's doing your skills first, because like a lot of skills in D are tied behind having your specific grade 3 Vanguard, and then there's Persona Ride, which is a massive power buff and gain to have an explosive turn as well. So you get to have that tempo first. And honestly, in my perspective, like the draw going second, I don't think really is enough to have a bit of a tempo swing to make things a bit more of a fair balance. So I honestly think there needs to be card designs or some way interaction in the game to address that in the future, because going first has still been a problem. Like at least in G, like when strategies like introduced, it like had a big like buff to going second, right? Because you have access to great power access in the G zone. So not to say that we need G zone in D, but to think like we need a balancing act going second to help accommodate to like this how strong going first is, especially with grade 4s coming in.
Like quick shields. Or
Just to add to that. But yeah, like going to set 4, before the grade 4s were announced, we were looking at Graffidia support, which looks really good. You can recycle your meteors, you get big meteors, and you also get like Bath Sagara, which is actually like looks quite potent, and you can toolbox like your early game, which weapon you want to go for. So it looked like it was gonna be bounced, and then bam, grade 4s were announced. Like, oh shit, okay, competition's really tough now. And the way I picture it's like when you go first, your persona ride or you riding to grade 4 is like equivalent of striding. But the problem is, in original G, you can play the grade 2 game, the chicken games you so call. But there's actually a lot of strategy going on in that, giving up on first stride or just that early game that can deny each other's moves. But you can't do that in the you always ride up the right grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. and then we just like you have enough turns to just fetch your grade 4 or persona right, and then it's like a steamroll from there. It's quite difficult for the second turn player to get through it. Like that draw one, yes, it's nice, but it's probably like more of a card design thing that if you go first, maybe you shouldn't be steamrolling too much.
It feels very similar to the exact same problem we had with V Premium, like just before the end of it, while it was still core standard. Like going first was just way too strong, and like everyone's saying, that the difference between G era where you get to strike first is that there's no way of stopping your opponent from going first.
If there is a decent design, I would say Laurel is actually like one of the like one aspect of design that I think they might be looking at that direction, like checking if your opponent's like higher grade, etc. That should be the direction we should be heading to, hopefully.
Okay. All right. Anything else we want to say about standard BRO before we move on?
The other thing I wanted to make a point on is that putting overtrigger aside, I still think triggering in general in D is much more game deciding compared to in my opinion, Vanguard has ever been.
Yeah.
I don't think throughout the entire history of Vanguard, we are at a point in D where whether you flip those yellow cards or not greatly affects the outcome of the game.
Yeah.
Just even ignoring the fact that there's an overtrigger to like even make that all bust.
I think the shield difference helped too.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we had like
yeah.
5Ks on the grade 1s instead of like being 10K, like and the fact that they brought over the 10K trigger from V, but kept the grade 1s from G and before, like and had that imbalance of like where shielding should be for the game is really annoying, I honestly say. So I honestly hope that kind of be addressed. I know they've been doing things like adding extra shield to the triggers and the cards that get extra guardian skills, but inherently just not having the flat value is kind of annoying.
But in a way, that's putting a lot more value on the triggers as well, right? When you think about it, because the shields, the triggers are on the shields, so you don't need to trigger them, right?
And like when you don't draw or like trigger anything, your hands just absolutely like just a bunch of 5Ks and like you just can't get anything, and that's kind of sad. And again, if you want to put those grade 1 or grade 2 that has shield value, that also means you're losing some quality in the deck because you're just sacrificing those slots for defensive cards.
But we also draw less overall. Like in V, you had way more cards that just said CB1 draw a card. Whereas in D, there's almost no card that you place that replaces itself. So your shield is not only worse, but there's also less of it.
Plus, like with grade 1s as well, it's less incentivizing to run them compared to grade 2s. They would need to have really good skills to accommodate because boosters are inherently not as value. Basically, because they have the same amount of shield, right? So why would you not just have a grade 2 that interacts well with the persona, right, and has intercept, so you can use that shield on the field? And that in itself is like a sort of deck building philosophy too, to say like grade 2s are better overall compared to grade 1s, unless it has some broken skill you need to run for your deck, because inherently, right, it just interacts so much better with the whole game as a whole. With the
do people have fields?
I mean, that's like Graffidia is so good as well, right? It's like on right, draw 1, then draw 2 more. It's like
it's such a great deck to just play vanilla trading, because like you draw 2 and then you like rock 2 or 3 of their cards. It's nice.
It's a fan favorite as well when spectators are just like 5 rock, let's go.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's so like the early game can be flexible, but also like when you write grade 2 and you persona blast, there's like a lot of decision making. There's a lot of micromanagement that you can do just to like optimize your deck, or just like scare your opponent even though you're just doing nothing.
Wherever, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, so what I want to add is maybe something different, right? So, so throughout the entire day yesterday, like against some certain matchup, for example, like against Graffidia or against Laurel, like I was trying to play around the counter plus, right? Like as we say in premium damage deny, or like just ride and go without doing anything. So and this. So we actually do that, right? We do like the big brain plays that we usually do in premium, and this is only like the third set of D, and we arrive at that like decision making where we don't just like ride and swing and then like just just draft check normally like what we usually do in the early days of like D or V. And as I said, like this is like only DPTO3, like the third set. If you count Laurel, then it's like fourth set, but the level of play is already like increasing, or maybe I should say the power creep is really increasing to the point where you can't survive without damage denying. For example, Graffidia first attack, Graffidia first CP, or like Laurel first sing. You have to like deny your opponents this access to not give them advantage, and this happens like super early in D. So I'm just like wondering whether like they will give more, as Toby and Solom said, like more defensive tools in the future, because in premium, if when we do like sort of like this damage denying, it means that like the power creep is just like way too high. In fact, that if you give one counter blast to your opponents, just like instantly got wiped the turn after. And yeah, I'm just thinking like whether they will give like more defensive tools in general for D. And I think like some of the triggers already have like that kind of power, right? With front triggers and then the new draw triggers in the set 4 that gains like 5k shield. So I think they realized that the lack of shield kind of actually matters as well in D format. And I agree with what Solomon and Toby just said as well, basically.
I do have
Tying
something
into that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So, out of my 9 games of Swiss, every single one of those games, like We're Upset, it's very based on decision making. And I think it's also because of the fact that the overtrigger is still available. Obviously, you don't know the cards in your opponent's hand, right? So, optimizing your turn, especially against a deck like Laurel, you want to kind of like stay low damage in case, the potential crit sack or, over trigger at 4, and then they just blow you out of the game. Little micromanagements, I find when I was playing Graffidia, I tend to guard early, or there are very, how should I say, there were many turning points when like I'm versing Laurel or Bruce. Sure, like I throw my hand down, bash them, right? But even then, if a Bruce survives that, and then the next turn they like pop Leonard and whatever, and then they try to blow up your field, there's like little micromanagement like things that you have to do to make sure that you, 1, don't get blown out, and 2, they don't get super advantage. And just like We're Upset, right? The CB denying like Graffidia for no world, or giving them the option to either go world or Graffidia. And I think that's really important. And like We're Upset, it's like third set in. And if we're denying resources and having such low hand, we definitely need defensive options. Because I'm not going to sit there with a 6-card hand trying to guard a Laurel that's 43k. And there's still an overtrigger in deck. It's not happening.
So tying into that though, I think that also is worthy of a compliment. I feel like there's more depth to play in D than there has been in the first year and a half or even 2 years in V, in my opinion. Like the amount of things you have to consider and like little decisions that actually have major impact, like we've been talking about, having that from a third set in a new format is pretty crazy. V, everything was always free. So like, oh, deny whatever. Oh, resource, who cares? Like here it's not the case. Here every decision does have major impact. And that also means that RNG can completely destroy you because a trigger has major impact. But overall, like I'm impressed that the micro decisions are so important already, only 3 or 4 sets in.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like they could change from V. I just want to say quickly that, like, I think like the one instance of V was like Murakumo was like the one outlier when Zanpaku came out. That was like the only time, and then from there they reverted back to Monkey Who Cares with things like Nectar Bash and other stuff from there, which they kind of moved away from. So with D this far, they're going consistently on the up and rise, so it's pretty good.
Yeah, are you going to say something?
Yeah. No, just want to say the same thing with Toby. So basically back then in V, if I remember correctly, right, the only time where you want to like damage deny was like the first Murakumo set that's kind of like broke the meta, and then afterwards it was around Anger Blader set, I think, which is like you kind of need to like deny Aggregator, not give him CP until you roll to grade 3. Otherwise, he just like bash you with 5 attacks and you just die. So, but that was like in what, VEP 09? Like, that was like way far into like, you know, the second year of V, not like the first few months, like Solemn said, like it is right now. So definitely like a, you know, big change, you know, compared to back then. But as I said before, defensive tools still needed.
Okay. Is that it for everyone? Should we move on to maybe the next topic? Okay. Well, I guess like for some of the people here, it's going to be end of the BRO journey, right? Just because it's the end of the 3 weeks of Vanguard. How'd you guys all feel about it?
I think it was good. I thoroughly enjoyed Standard more than I ever did ever since Overdress got announced. I actually enjoy it way more than V Premium, and that's big.
Wow.
That's a huge statement.
Wow.
I never ever said that. Oh, actually, no, I lie. When the game rebooted the first time, I hated it, and that was garbage. But now the game rebooted a second time, and I appreciated it. But like Solemn said, the micro decisions that will impact your game 2 to 3 turns ahead is something that I really love to play with. Like very technical decks, like Graffidia, and looking into the future, how that will impact my turns going ahead. It's just amazing, and to get that in third set, that's a blessing, to be honest.
I think there's a big increase in like the testing incentive and the opportunity and information you can get out of it compared to set 1. Like in set 1, I think the base premise was like hard drawing your power card, like with a bash and with an old, or like Bruce, just make sure you have Marjories and then go from there. But now with the testing and everything, to make sure that everything in the meta, that we have the right opportunities and the right plays into, the micromanagement, I think is like really, really cool to see that we're still going in that up and up direction. Because obviously set 1 was linear, and as we improve the sets, the improving of the skills that we need to harness and hone are going up as well. So I think that's a really good stepping stone to see how the game is going to be shaping up going ahead too.
Okay.
I want to add one thing with with how Overdress is going. It's looking pretty solid. I mean, we're just entering set 3 and set 4 next, and set 5 was announced in Japanese, and everyone's like, okay, this is gonna be like a pretty good year ahead. And I think sometimes like we sort of forget that, like, because they split it into just the 5 nations and 6 plus some extras. The fact that every deck gets an update, and you have that opportunity to just update existing decks, and also means access to decks are like way better than what we had before in V, where it's just like, okay, I've just completely buy the newest like grade 3 lineup, completely replace my deck, different clan, and relearn things. It's a massive difference. So the players, there's more incentive for players to learn and improve their current deck.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to say, like, overall, like, the Bro tournaments are run, like, the best of their abilities. Of course, there's going to be internet issues, disconnects, but it's honestly really easy to join. You just need, like, a working laptop or computer, and you can even use a laptop webcam, just, like, lean it over. You don't even need to buy a webcam. So, like, I would recommend anyone who's like not playing right now to like just try and join. Like, it's free to enter, why not, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
everyone
like,
tells you to join, right? So come on, do it.
I got one of my friends. He was the one that gave me the Graffidia deck to play, Tan. I told him, you know what? You should get a second copy of Graffidia and play. And then he played, had the best time of his life. And he was like, dude, anyone who has the opportunity to join should join. It is just so fun.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel bad because I ended his run.
Yeah.
I versed him too.
That's his X2.
Yeah.
We're up?
Yeah.
Do you want to say something? Oh.
Yeah, just one second Derek's comment. Basically, I am pleasantly surprised with how, the overall D format is compared to like V Premium. Because I thought like before this, everyone knows that I think that V is better than D just because there's no overtrigger in it. but D is surprisingly like way better in terms of like decision making and micromanagement, like the stuff that we're talking about before, damage denying and stuffs. And yeah, for me it's like increase the skill level and skill cap as well, compared to V. Where V is for me is just like you farm hand, I farm hand, we just beat each other until like someone's died. And yeah, it's kind of like boring in my opinion for a format that's already been like 3.5 years old, and it still doesn't do change that much compared to like the early days. And not to mention like with the addition of the Heal Guardians, it only improved like a already strong deck like a Laurel and not really change anything in the meta. Whereas in D, you have like even a deck like Graffidia, you can play like pure Graffidia, or like you can play mix it with worlds, you know, one deck with like a similar tweaks in it, but it changes a lot because of like the right deck as well. So you actually like have a lot of stuff to do in D way more than in V. And yeah, as I said, like I was pleasantly surprised by that.
I guess when you kind of think about it, like V, you can farm a lot of hands, but unlike Premium, you just don't have that super outplay potential now with the giant hand that you have to destroy people, right? Because even giant hands in Premium don't really mean much if you... Well, they sometimes do, but then you can also still die from that too if you're not careful. So it's kind of missing that big outplay kind of thing versus in D where no one has anything and you just gotta deal with it.
No,
Except
the
all
outplay
triggers.
is
Yeah, except the triggers.
That's the outplay. Yes, so
The
you have to
over-triggers,
always
yeah.
plan. You always have to plan for the over trigger.
Oh.
That's
Yep,
the
I
outplay.
just need to 6 damage OT, then I'll win.
See?
Okay. Anything else we want to add before we maybe end the thing? To any special topics?
I'm pretty sure we've said it so many times in the previous videos, but yes, Bushiroad, we do want more of these online events. Please keep them going, even though we have offline events hopefully soon.
That's right. That's right.
Best of the both worlds.
Yeah. All right. So I guess it's pretty good. Rock life, right? Rocks for life.
Rock and roll.
Rock
I
and
think
roll.
that's the best
Wow.
summary. Yeah, the best summary to say that we like the direction Stand is going at the moment in its early days. Like it's only less than a year old. The one thing I think we're all here pretty much unanimously saying is that Overtrick is kind of like detrimentalness to its competitive aspect of the game, with like just how much of the swing and impact they are. And we're just hoping to see good things in the future coming from D, which, you know, from the way the designs are coming ahead, seems to be the case.
Cool. Eventually, we'll convert Kevin to Team Rock as well. You know, Team Galaxy
next
Cardfight Consulting. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it.
Instead, multi-attacking rocks.
Yeah, it
Multi-attacking
needs to
rocks.
get more,
I mean,
more attack than
Hey,
than-
Destiny Jade can multi-attack.
True. True. Okay, well, let's not keep this too long. We've talked about pretty much standard and, you know, how cool BRO is. I guess just it's time to say goodbye, right? Goodbye, and good luck to the Y Schwartz players out there next week. So, see you guys.